Chaosvash is live gameplay. Now we are playing Stories, The Path of Destiny, episode 11. We gonna see if we can forge our own path, our own destiny. Cause that was not be toyed with. Now we stop. Alright, so let's continue, shall we?
As Lupino pulled Zenobia off the Farfarer, Bernardo readied himself for the battle ahead. "I'm sorry I nicked your jacket," she said. Wallabies, he thought. Why did it have to be wallabies? Walking Zenobia to the rebel secret base, where she would be interrogated. So, why was he feeling so scared? Bernardo had been to a dungeon once where all the chests had teeth and eyes. It had been a short visit. Building these platforms was so expensive, they'd run out of budget for guardrails. How could you convince a firewall you're his friend? Slice the wings off a fly in the air. Not that he would. It's sort of mean, really. They caught their breath. It's beautiful, she said, looking at the ruins. This used to be the library of Uvar, he said. Before your father's ravens smashed it. Do we have to talk politics? She asked. That's not how I want to remember you, she said with an odd, wistful look on her face. She was as beautiful as she'd ever been. And as brave. Apino huffed. They got back on the trail. Anyone ever tell you you have a lovely eye? No? The long stairs. So he was close to the rebel base. Nothing was on fire. So far, so good. Those flames really bring out your eyes. Truth was, Renato really liked the sound his sword made in the air. As they made their way to the secret rebel base, Renato felt strange. Zenobia was his prisoner, yet somehow she felt more like an old friend. He wanted to tell her all his secrets, but suddenly the ruins lit up with thousands of fireworks. There was a thunderous roar and dust rose. The caves were collapsing. The caves! You've been playing me? Renato said, and he stared at Zenobia. I'm sorry, she said, and she seemed almost embarrassed. Then, everything went dark. When Renato came to, he had a terrible headache. Also, Zenobia's sword was at his throat. And her shackles were gone. So was Lupino. The terrible thing is, he said, I really have missed you. Now that we've destroyed the rebellion, would you consider becoming an advisor to the Emperor's daughter? I'm no one's servant. Everybody serves. Even if it's only destiny. I like to choose my own destinies, he said. The whole point of a destiny is you can't choose. Oh, never mind, she said. Look, if I see you again, I'll have to kill you. He watched her ship soar away. He would see her again, he decided. Even if he had to fight his way across the entire fleet. The Imperial fleet was cleaning up the few rebel remnants. For only a moment, he thought about running. But heroes don't run, even when the world is against them. Even when their cause is hopeless, and their efforts futile, and pointless, and useless, and death painful and guaranteed. He's decided to stop thinking for a while.
Give me 1 second. I got some pasta on the stove.
You always wanted to do that.
Do it, said Renato to himself. Renato remembered when the Emperor had first come to the throne. He built universities and libraries. He used to invite scientists to dinner. What could have made that toad so afraid of death that he would risk bringing back the lost gods?
Oh, damn thing is stuck.
The Imperial fleet was cleaning up the few rebel remnants. For only a moment, he thought about running. But heroes don't run, even when the world is against them. Even when their cause is hopeless, and their efforts futile and pointless and useless and death painful and guaranteed. He's decided to stop thinking for a while. Renato had a feeling that was the back door to something. But what? Renato's arm was sore, his armor wet with raven blood. He was tired of death. But death was not yet tired of him. The rebels were losing. Badly. In some other universe, Renato thought, he and Zenobia had left Swordfu School together, taken out their names and sailed off into the mists. Not this Zenobia, and not him. For him, there was nothing to do but forge ahead. Kill the Emperor and end this. Don't look down, he told himself. Don't look down.
Excuse me.
Soon he'd confront the Emperor. Funny that this whole war had come about because the Emperor feared death. Now it was coming for him. There was some sort of lesson there, wasn't there? At last, he reached the Emperor's ship. Zenobia was there. Why'd you have to come back? She said, guess I'm just serving my destiny. He shrugged. You don't even know what that word means. She said, do you ever wonder if things have been different all the time? She said, and drew her sword. In the end, Renato lay bleeding out on the deck. Zenobia sat by his side, upset. What are you so upset about? He asked. You wouldn't understand. Why didn't you tell me you were going to leave school? I was afraid you'd convince me not to. I guess I'll have to buy you a drink in the halls of the Valiant then, he told her. And then he was gone. He should go back to some of the choices he'd faced before. Maybe there were new paths that had opened up. Like those doors he was opening up all over the map that took him to new treasures and around his enemies. But he'd learn another true thing. Zenobia still had feelings for him.
Oh, see? Holds a new path.
The book's pages fluttered to the beginning once again. Faster than before? And he fell. The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky River had surfaced. Bernardo knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong. But he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it. To take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course, Renato had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion. And he had a gut feeling that he needed to use that to his advantage. Every child knew about the Sky River. The Transcendent Emperor had buried its pieces deep. And then, this Emperor's horrific sacrifices had brought it back to the surface. Bernardo wasn't exactly sure how to use the legendary weapon. But surely, there must be some way to do it without provoking another catastrophe. Had he, somehow, summoned the long-lost components of the legendary weapon out of the deep places of the Earth? It was more than Bernardo could fathom. But if he could find a legendary weapon, he would use it. As he set foot on the island, Bernardo couldn't help feeling a bit curious. Was Lapino still waiting to be rescued? No. He was probably drinking champagne with the ravens. Did ravens drink champagne? Did rabbits? Bernardo felt oddly thirsty, come to think of it. Why had he chosen the Sky River? Bernardo never made plans that required constant vigilance. He was a hero, He didn't think too much. He just went with his gut and hoped it all worked out. The Sky Ripper was a long shot. He'd have to devote himself to it. No side journeys, no rescuing old friends. That was against his nature. Could he stick with it?
Boy, if looks could kill.
Gone rather well, actually. That had been his mistake before. Not trusting Zenobia's feelings for him. But how could he have known? After all these years of silence? Claw on him. As for the gate, well, he could take her or leave her. Sorry, it's better to do. See? That wasn't so hard. There it was. Skyripper's armature. The stuff that dreams are made of. Engineers' dreams, anyway. The device was intricate. No one alive had the skill to make a thing like it. How was it part of a weapon at all? He'd have to ask a scientist. But first, he'd get the second piece. Skyripper had a heart. A core that had come to rest on the next island. Well, there was another island he could reach. Zenobia had just invaded it with her father's Raven battalions. She must be encamped there still. But fighting Zenobia now, that made no sense at all. He'd already sacrificed one friend to get this armature, was it? He didn't need to hurry to face her. She would find him. Renato asked himself why he changed course to confront Zenobia. He'd no idea. Sometimes he would just do things, and he could never figure out why he'd done them. Usually, they worked out. After all, he was a hero. The truth is, though, he wanted to see her, wasn't it? It had been a dozen years since Swordfu School. He'd followed every rumor about her, every scrap of news. Not that he still loved her. After all, she was his enemy. No, it was solely because, know your enemy. All right, maybe he should stop pretending. He knew exactly how she felt about it. But their love affair always ended with a tragic death. Unless, maybe he could find a way to dodge tragedy. Surely he could, couldn't he?
The live ones, I mean.
Oh, look! Fracking.
couldn't do worse with Zenobia than he'd done with the core, could he?
Gogglers. Bernardo hated gogglers.
It was almost impossible to sneak past them. If one didn't spot you, another one would.
Well, the eyes have had it.
That's some bullshit.
Renato wasn't entirely sure how he was going to capture Zenobia. She'd be expecting him. And he didn't have Lapino to cook up a clever plan. Why was it again that he hadn't got the core? Maybe because the results tended to be disastrous. These streets were familiar. The Swordfu School was closed now, but he had been down that street 1,000 times. He knew that pub. He knew that alley. He knew the alley behind it much too well. No wonder Zenobia had chosen to invade this island herself. Renato slinked through Zenobia's ship, making no sound at all. Where were her guards? Finally, he reached her bedroom. She was curled up on her bed. Oh, he'd forgotten how beautiful she was. How sleek. How soft. He tapped her on the shoulder with his sword. She vanished. And he suddenly noticed he couldn't move except his mouth. In fact, soon he couldn't keep his mouth shut. He told Zenobia everything. Sky River, the Iblistone, even where the secret rebel base was, until he was hoarse. It was some kind of truth spell. A talky truth spell. She called her father by Farspeaker Toad, and filled His Majesty in. But why didn't he get the core? Croaked the Farspeaker in something like His Majesty's croak. Because I missed you, darling. Renato grinned. He doesn't even know why, frowned Zenobia. That makes no sense. It's a trap, shouted the Emperor. I'll meet you at the outpost, and I'll bring my interrogators. If Renato came face to face with the Emperor, maybe he could assassinate him. But maybe it would be smarter and safer to turn Zenobia against her father.
Do either one. Let's see.
What are you doing? Asked Zenobia. Did you ever wonder why the Emperor adopted you? He asked her. She shook her head. He told her. His Majesty wanted to bring the lost gods back. They could make him an eater of souls, an immortal. But to seal his bargain with them, he needed a sacrifice. Someone who truly loved him. She was stunned. Furious. You're lying. Under a truce spell? It's a trick. You can't prove that. Take me to the observatory, and I will. What kind of proof could you possibly have? She said as they landed on the Nexus. Your father ritually sacrificed a village, and he left witnesses? The scientists resurrected one. Well, it's not really alive, but it can talk. A true witness. She found the dead can't lie. Well, I bet they could. They just don't have any reason to. She nodded grimly. You go on ahead. I don't want the Ravens to see me.
All right, that's it for us. We are finished with the broadcast. I hope y'all enjoyed. You know what I'm saying? Me and you did a great job today, man. We had some gaming news. We had some anime news. Then we kicked it off with some Mafia. You know what I'm saying? Doing well in that. Got that guy maybe a trophy or two. And then with the stories, the Path of Destinies, got a trophy here too. You know what I'm saying? So we're making some progress as we're going along, man. Making some progress. Alright, so other than that, man, I hope y'all enjoy your night. This is your boy, the one and only, Chaosvash, aka Lil Partner 01, sign off. Stay cool, stay safe, stay breezy, real breezy. I'll holler at y'all later on tonight. Hopefully with some more gaming news and anime news. Peace.